I've done videos before on my channel on Terence McKenna and Ram Dass. They're both heroes of mine, great thinkers, influential, powerful, spiritual men, great philosophers. In this video, they have a conversation together where they talk about life and death. If you want to see the videos I've already done, the links are in the description. But let's learn now a little bit of life and death from Ram Dass and Terence McKenna. Who better to have at that imaginary dinner party, you know, where people living or dead can come, that people always talk about? Who are your ideal guests? Them.
Is that because you feel confident that the self is somehow indestructible, or because you don't even ask that question?
You got to watch the words indestructible, because that has a time dimension. I mean, I think that awareness is
But for example, do you think this is the stage upon which all acts are performed, or that we move
No, this
up
is
and
one of the
down
stages.
many levels?
Oh, probably infinite number.
It's nice that Terence McKenna is having something to eat during the conversation, but to be fair, I just had a little bit of a banana. Right. Firstly, you know, Ram Dass, who, although he took a lot of LSD when he was a Harvard professor, he is more, I suppose, associated with the mystic, yogic, meditative path. Terence McKenna, botanist, psychedelic, cosmonaut, is obviously more associated with the plant medicine path. I like that their conversation in this weird restaurant, I believe somewhere in the Czech Republic, starts off with talking about the various stages. Like, McKenna asks outright, is this the stage where you think reality plays out? Ram Dass responds, there are many stages, and I'm reminded of the great William James quote when writing about religious experience and the varieties of religious experience, that there are realms of consciousness from which we are separated by the thinnest of veils. You now, me now, are separated from other potential layers of consciousness. Of course, you know, Lacan or Barth or semiologists and sort of post-structuralists of the last century, they were all about saying, no, all of this stuff is constructed by concept and language, and a lot of, like, you know, Derrida and Guattari, that they thought similar things, that we live in a kind of a conceptual reality. But often there are still references to a ulterior or ultimate terrain of reality that language, imagination and concept are abstract from. A man Ram Dass and a man Terence McKenna are acknowledging, as spiritual discourse has always done, that there are many, many terrains, layers upon which we can exist. You now, me now, through various different techniques, be they plant medicine or meditative, could access present but unaccessed layers of reality. Sometimes I feel that's what synchronicity is, that it's the occasional breach of another world. Don't let it make you go crazy.
Like, I have this friend Emmanuel, you know, this spook that has no body. And Emmanuel's two lines to me were, death is absolutely safe, first thing. That's a very profound statement. And the next thing he said, it was like taking out the tight shoe. And then I said to him, Emmanuel, what am I doing here? Who made this error? What am I doing on this plane? He said, you're in school, why don't you try taking the curriculum?
And the curriculum is?
Life.
Does your life sometimes feel like a tight shoe? Mine does. Not that there isn't a lot of bliss, beauty and glory in my life. There certainly is. I love my dog. I love my family. Not necessarily in that order. But also there is suffering. There is suffering associated with having a body. There is suffering associated with the limitations of life. I had a conversation with recently. Someone said to me that you're too connected to your personal experience and pleasure. Because I was saying, like, when I'm in service or connected to God through service, i.e. I'm doing something kind for somebody or whatever, that I feel a kind of bliss. He said that's just a byproduct, it's not the purpose. I recognise this, but I also feel that it's good to know when you are attuned, when you are in alignment. And I feel that the reason we crave transcendence, whether that's through addiction or falling in love or individual achievement is because there is some part of us that longs to expand beyond the body, because the body is not all we are, but it feels like it's all we are often. Hunger, other forms of appetite, pain, suffering, inconvenience, all these things tether me to the vessel. But I can see the light in this room playing upon the forms within it. And I know that in this realm, there are many phenomena: light, vibration, radio waves, different frequencies. I feel that there are deeper, as yet undetermined and unaccessed, at least by me, frequencies of consciousness and reality that we can aspire to.
Any life?
It means the exploration of the clinging of mind within the world of projected form.
So the exploring life.
It's the exploring life with it's purposive in the sense of returning back into the Garden of Eden. It's a return. There is a return metaphor underlying all of it.
And I'm sure you're asked this all the time, so am I. Maybe we give different answers. Do you think that this can be done without psychedelics fast enough to have an impact on the global situation?
I could conceive that it could be, yeah. You asked, do I think? I don't really have an opinion whether it will or won't, but I could see it go either way.
Well,
I mean, like John Seed said to me, it's too late as far as the rainforests are concerned. He says the inertia is too great in the whole system. It's too late. So I said, okay, John. I mean, it was the first time somebody said it to me just like that. He said, it would take a miracle. I said, oh, that threw me back on whatever that was. And then he said, but after all, he said, we came up out of the ocean and came onto land. He said, we have quite a lineage of miracles. I wouldn't underestimate us. That was a nice one.
This is a conversation between two phenomenal expressions of intelligence. Both these men experienced and critiqued their culture so beautifully. I feel like I could watch days, weeks, months of Terence McKenna talking, of Ram Dass talking, of him guiding meditations, and I take quite seriously their perspectives on most social and political and spiritual issues. It's interesting that they're here talking about the potential for salvation and enlightenment on a personal and social level. Certainly, it's true that if your individual consciousness changes, then your reality changes, and that there is no statute of limitation on how many of us might claim awakening. You can do it. What I think it means on a personal level is embracing practices that help you to free yourself from the inner and outer attachments and limitations that currently define your life, and open yourself to a realm of new possibilities. What I think it means socially is the establishing of a set of principles and the creation of a kind of new politics, I suppose is a simple way of saying it, a new set of rules and systems by which we can live together that are, in a sense, a kind of overcoming, in the same way as I talked about personal attachment there, of the kind of social attachments that have defined the, let's just say, post-industrial age, but you could perhaps just as easily say the post-agricultural age, a time where convenience, exploitation of resources have been our priority, and a kind of a materialistic objectification of one another in the world have been the sort of dominant ways of seeing reality. This is something that can certainly change. You can change it, I can change it with, I think I'm on the brink of quoting Rocky IV. If I can change and you can change, maybe the whole damn world can change. I mean, those are not my words. Them's Rocky's words. Here's some little quotes from Ram Dass on death and purpose. In our Western culture, although death has come out of the closet, it's still not openly experienced or discussed. Allowing dying to be so intensely present enriches both the preciousness of each moment and our detachment from it. It is good to make friends with death, to understand it. I know that when it happens, you know, someone you love, it's impossible to prepare for in some ways, in so much as it introduces you to new unanticipated experiences. But there is a beauty in it. And a terrible beauty in that pain. Terence McKenna says, the purpose of life is to familiarise oneself with this after-death body so that the act of dying will not create confusion in the psyche. Both of them, I suppose, allude to the terminus and the knowledge of that termination as being vital in our experience here. And how could it not be? If all of us were immortal in this form, then it's almost like the idea of consequence would alter. Yeah, there would be punishment. Yeah, there would be challenges. Yeah, there will be suffering. But knowing that everything is finite, that's what places, that's the dominant condition, I suppose, of being alive. And when I spoke to David Kessler, he came on the podcast Under the Skin. He's a death and grief expert who, having written very successfully on the subject, lost his son, which obviously radically altered his understanding of bereavement. He said, life gives us pain. Our job is to experience it when it gets handed to us. Avoidance of loss has a cost. Having our pain seen and seeing the pain in others is a wonderful medicine for both body and soul. While death may look like a loss to the living, the last hours of a dying person may very well be filled with fullness rather than emptiness. Well, that's something that I've heard people speak about most lucidly and passionately. Being with other people when they have passed over has been profound and in its own way beautiful. Why don't you let me know what your personal experiences are of death, what your feelings are on this conversation between Ram Dass and Terence McKenna in the comments below. If you want to do some guided meditations with me, there's a link in the description for my Luminary podcast, Above the Noise, where I do a guided meditation, heavily influenced actually, many of them are, by Ram Dass's brilliant meditations, which are available here on this site if you're watching it on YouTube. And if you're not watching it on YouTube, go over and subscribe to my Awakening channel, Awakening with Russell Brand, where I talk about spirituality and different techniques and methods, and subscribe to my main channel too. And if you don't have my mailing list yet, go to russellbrand.com and get that too. Now I feel you are fully integrated in my community. You're getting everything I have to offer, and I thank you for participating.